Hi, I'm Amir Weizman from the Libertarian Caucus and the Likud, and today I am with Yotam Yacoba, and we are going to discuss a number of issues. Unfortunately, we have to discuss current affairs and the wave of terror that we have to deal with. We are going to debate the Yellow Vests movement that's maybe or not taking hold in Israel, and we are going to discuss the coming to Israel of Minister Cellini from the Italian government, and there are some people who think it's a good thing. Others have a disagreement on that issue. So these are all the issues for today.
Another terror attack in the past few days. It seems like Israel is going through another phase of a terror wave or a terror attack once again. Amir, what is your position about the situation? What do you think is going to happen in the next year, in the next days?
Well, first of all, I don't know. Unfortunately, I have no insight on what's going to happen in the future. But there is no doubt that we have seen over the past few months
some kind of escalation.
Yes, an increase.
When we're talking about the West Bank, for viewers that...
Right, an increase in terror activity in the West Bank, in Judea and Samaria. And this is very, of course, of concern to the security apparatus in Israel, to the Israeli citizens living in Judea and Samaria, first of all, but for the whole country, of course. And all we can say is that we think, here in the Likud certainly, but pretty much everywhere, I think, that the Israeli security forces should be given a free rein to do whatever it takes to bring security and tranquility back to the country.
Yeah. So I want to say that IDF and our special forces and the police, they're doing their best to make Judea and Samaria and entire Israel safer. And they're doing what they can do in the military channel. But I want to talk about the debate in the social media, about punishment and what we can do to demotivate those terrorists and the other armed movement. So I would just want to mention that from my point of view, we have a small range of action to change our policy so we could demotivate those terrorists. I believe that in a way, unless we're going to move to a two-state solution, and unless we're going to see a negotiation between Israelis and Palestinians, unless we're going to give hope to both sides that something is going to change, we're going to see more and more of those terror attacks that we condemn. But in a way, I can understand why the young Palestinians, they have no future, they have no hope, they see no negotiation in the future. I can understand that they're moving to the violent opportunity. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand. This is the classical, I would say, leftist take on the situation for the past decades here in Israel. The only problem with what you said is that there's absolutely no link whatsoever between what you said and reality.
But, just let me ask you, what we can do in the policy range that could demotivate those terrorists?
Well, I think
because I think we're doing everything, and this is the limitation of force. The force cannot maintain forever, and the IDF and our special forces, as I said, they are not magicians. They can only make some efforts in the armed channel, and I think diplomacy and other policies, this could give us the answer for what we seek.
Well, theoretically, of course, if we had somebody on the other side who was willing to sign a peace agreement with us under some conditions that any Israeli government could accept, then yes, there could be peace. But the problem, the fundamental problem that we have, and we've talked about it already in the past, and I think we've been talking about that literally for decades, is that we are not talking about a conflict which deals with, this piece of land or that piece of land. The conflict is much deeper, and the conflict is not with this or that Palestinian leader
it's
or
between
party.
nations.
It's between nations. And I do not see, and I think history is clear on that for the past 25 years since the beginning of the Oslo process, I do not see any willingness on the part of the Palestinian society, and I would like to emphasize the word society, to accept Israel as a Jewish state. And therefore, the sad truth is, and you know, I'm 43 years old. I'm not very old, but I'm not very young anymore. And you know, I've been watching people being murdered for many, many years, like everybody else. I know people personally who have been killed.
It's going to be forever. This is our future. This is our destiny to be in a circle of blood, in bloodshed forever. So I cannot accept this reality.
You cannot accept it, but the problem is that whether you accept it or not,
this is it. This is what you're saying.
This is irrelevant. But the reality is that we are dealing with a society which hates us, which does not accept us.
I accept that.
And there is no magic potion or solution to this problem.
Conflict are condemned to end.
No.
They are, every conflict in the history of the most violent, with the worst bloodshed and the nightmares of countries, one to another, it ends. England and France and so on and so on. Conflict ends. How this conflict is going to end and what are we going to do to make the end?
We can end the conflict very easily. It's very easy to end the conflict. The question is, are we willing to do what it takes to end the conflict?
What do you think it takes? Because I think a two-state solution, as you said, it's the classic left idea.
The two-state solution could work if you had the opposite on the other side, a society.
But you keep playing. Me and you, we are citizens in Israel, okay? But you know, you keep blaming the other side. But you know, in the other side. In Ramallah, they're sitting two people just like me and you, and they're part of the same society, and they say, if it's up to us, the Palestinian, we can end the conflict. But you know what? It's about the Israelis. They cannot end the conflict because they have...
But that's what you say. I don't see anybody in the Palestinian society, I don't see any major political figure in the Palestinian political world who is willing to even say that he accepts the concept of a Jewish state.
Do you think the Palestinians look at Israel and say, why, they're so peace supporters? They're looking at Netanyahu, Naftali Bennett, Avigdor Lieberman, they're looking at the hard-right government here in Israel, and they think that Israel is not towards peace.
Well,
so makes sense, right?
No, because even when there was, let's say, people who, Prime Minister here on the left-hand side, of the political map.
20 years ago? Ehud Barak in 1999?
And Ehud Barak, Ehud Olmert. But Ehud Olmert was prime minister 10 years ago. Okay. He gave an offer which was even better from the Palestinian point of view than what they got from Ehud Barak in Camp David.
So you
and
said,
he didn't even get an answer, for God's sake. So nothing. That's a fact. That's not something to be discussed.
Let's talk about the policy of punishment. Okay, there is a debate about death penalty. I want to know what you think about it, and the vanish of families and wrecking of
banishment of families. So the question,
and
house demolition.
What do you think?
So the question is really how we look at punishment.
In the last weeks, we have seen the yellow vest movement in France, and in Friday, we're going to see the Israeli version of the yellow vest. There's going to be a protest here in Israel about the prices of electricity, water, food, and so on. As we're going to see here in the next few weeks, we're going to see economic change. What do you think about the hikes of prices?
Hikes of prices, right. Well, what's very interesting is to look at what prices of which products and services are actually increasing.
It's rising, yes.
Are rising. So we are looking at electricity, we're looking at water, we're looking at Arnona, so-called, which is really the city tax, the municipal tax. We're looking or other things which are either under government ownership or are heavily regulated, or in any case are in fields which are not open, free, and competitive. So the real problem in Israel that we have, and that's not a new problem, is that after so many years, we still have not opened. We've gone a long way since the 1970s, certainly, but still, we haven't really completely privatized and opened the Israeli economy to free and open and fair competition. And instead, what we still have is cartels, which always exist because of regulations. We still don't have free import, free exports. We have a lot of limitations.
This is a neoliberal opinion, as we
that's
can.
That's not neoliberal. That's classical liberal and classical economic theory.
Okay, I get it. But I would want to say, first of all, I'm a social democrat, and I understand that the market is a capitalist market, and we are talking about a private ownership. Nobody think about socialism like Marx and others. But I think that if we're going to see uprising prices in the private sector, like Osem, which is a private company.
Yes, but it is working
wait a minute, hear me out here.
Fields.
If they are raising their prices, I can say, okay, they're a private company, they're allowed, they can raise their prices, and the customer will decide we want to buy it or not. Okay, fair. But if we're talking about the electricity prices, which are the government decide those prices, and
that's not correct.
It could. It could.
That's not correct. There's actually a commission which is independent, and the prices are not fixed by the government in that case, but by an independent commission.
What I'm trying to say is the government have a huge influence on the electricity price, and when the electricity price is rising, so the water the water company, it's based on those electricity, on this electricity.
All the prices
it rises, and when the water and the electricity and the water together, they are the expense of the city council taxes, the municipality tax. Right. So this is basically the first domino that making this entire uprising of those prices. So I think if the state of Israel could hold, or the government could hold the electricity prices, we could avoid this uprising prices phenomenon.
Well, but I tell you what, I'm sorry really to talk a little bit about economic theory, but unfortunately
it's your hobby.
It's not only that, but that's my hobby. That's the truth. You have to make a difference between price and cost.
Okay.
Price you can play with, right? You can play with prices. You can decide that this is going to be worth zero. Because why? And if you try to sell it like in Venezuela, then I shoot you in the head. Fine. But that is not going to change the fact that there is a cost involved in producing this mug, right? This product. So in free and open markets, prices reflect the cost.
Product, yes.
And when this happens, then you have essentially a functioning market. When you try to meddle with the prices, which is what unfortunately the state of Israel does in a few markets, right? Then you get problems. That's exactly, because again, you cannot eliminate the cost. You can change the prices, but the prices are just a symptom of the cost. They are not the reason.
They are part of the formula.
No, they are more than that. They are a reflection of the cost.
Well, would you say that this change is part of the natural gas deal?
Well, there is
It's not part of it.
No. What there was is that there was a deal between the so-called
State of Israel,
the electricity company, and essentially what they decided is that every year the price is going to go up automatically by a few percent, independently of the costs.
I want to welcome Mr. Cellini here. He has been a great friend of Israel. You had the opportunity to see the terror tunnels yourself directly. This is a clear act of aggression of Hezbollah against us, against the norms of the international community.
The Italian Interior Minister, Salvini, is on an official visit in Israel, and this is going to cause controversy, of course. Why? Because Salvini is seen by some people as belonging to the extreme...
He's an Israeli supporter. He's an Israeli supporter.
He's an Israeli supporter, but some people look at him as being an extreme right-winger, And so some people in the Israeli left are upset that the Israeli government is having relationship with an extreme right winger.
No.
And then
it's the Italian left. It's the Italian left.
That's 1 second.
Wait a
that's
minute,
one
wait a minute.
thing.
You need to frame it right.
No.
He said
One second. Let me finish.
Okay.
I said some people in Israel are upset on the left-hand side, and in Italy there are other people who are not friends of Israel who are upset because he's a great friend of Israel. So we have two sides who are upset. We have people in Italy and people in Israel. And obviously, we are very happy that we have friends in Europe within the liberal right, whatever you want to call it. But I think that Salvini is a great guy. He's a great Italian patriot, and he's a friend of Israel, and we should embrace him.
So I think the dispute was about his conversation with Netanyahu. Netanyahu said that Hezbollah are terror, and he said, of course, terrorists are terrorists, and this is what basically started this dispute or this debate in the social media and so on. So I think we need to understand the difference between terror, guerrilla, and like state-to-state war. So it's a different situation. In Israel, we have a lot of problems, or we have this security situation. But when we see a terror attack coming from, just in the first item, come from Ramallah, from Shechem, from Jenin, it's a terror. It's the weak side trying to harm and psychologically affect the Israeli mind. They're using a small amount of weapon, and they're trying to hurt civilian in the soft stomach. Okay, so this is like the essence of terror, and as we see it here in Israel. Hezbollah, from the other hand, it's an army. They have division, battalions, tactics.
But it's not a state actor.
It's not a state.
It's a non-state actor. It's some sort of a guerrilla group.
Exactly. What I'm trying to say that in the Second Lebanon War, what our viewers may be familiar as the Hezbollah-Israel War from 2006, when Israel invaded Lebanon, and it should invade because she tried to defend the north and so on, Hezbollah used the domestic civilian villages, and he tried to vanish the occupier or the invader. And this is guerrilla as from the books, from the political science books. And what we're seeing today with those tactics and tunnels into the Israeli north villages, it's not really a terror. It's more as a war between two states in a way. And as we discussed earlier, I believe that Hezbollah, he is the address to talk with.
No.
Like you cannot condemn Lebanon in the UN when Hezbollah is the address. Who is Lebanon government?
It doesn't matter. Lebanon is an independent and sovereign state. Lebanon is responsible as a state for everything that happens on its sovereign territory.
Question.
Whether Hezbollah or not.
Question. What makes Lebanon sovereignty available, or make it
that's international
relevant?
law.
Okay,
that is international law.
Okay, so the state definition is they have the monopoly on the violence.
They agreed. There was an agreement already many years ago to end essentially the Lebanon civil war in 1989. That's 30 years ago. The Taif agreement, right? They essentially agreed. All sides agree. All parties agree to lay down their weapons, but one. Hezbollah. Why did they let Hezbollah? Because it was convenient for all parties that the Hezbollah fight the war, to keep the Hezbollah as a warring party to fight against Israel. They are all responsible collectively for keeping the Hezbollah. Now, the thing is, obviously, it got out of hand.
But maybe Lebanon government was here and Hezbollah was here, but now things shift.
It does not matter.
But now,
so fine, they are all responsible. The fact is, we are being attacked from the Lebanese Lebanese territory. Everybody who is on the other side, we don't have to try to look. These guys,
between Hezbollah
we do not have to distinguish. They are all enemies.
You know what?
If they attack us, they're responsible. End of discussion.
Okay, I get it. But you know what? When the Lebanon government says it's not us, it's Hezbollah, I just can't agree with this concept. Because if Hezbollah is more is a stronger actor in this arena than Lebanon governments, who's Lebanon government for me? Because if we cannot deal with them, if we cannot sign the papers with them, we need to move to...
Well, the fact that Lebanon is a failed state is clear.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, we all know that. It's not from yesterday, not from today. It's been like that essentially since 1975. We had a peace agreement with Lebanon. You remember? In 1982, we signed 92, 93, or 83. I'm sorry, 82 or 83. We signed with Gemayel.
It's not a peace agreement. It's not a peace agreement like you have in Egypt. It's not a peace agreement like you had with Jordan.
There was a full.
It's not viable.
No.
It's not viable.
It's not viable, but there was a peace agreement. The fact that we could not implement it is because Gemayel was murdered at the time and then his brother, Amin Gemayel, Bashir Gemayel was murdered. Amin Gemayel, his brother, came to power. He started playing games.
And now a good word. This week and the past weeks, we've seen the women movement against violence against women. This week, another woman was murdered, the 25 in 2018. And I just want to say a good word for all the women and men that stand against violence and support a more healthy and clear situation between men and women. And I hope the government will move those budget that we're waiting to get to support the women organization and to end the violence against women.
Well, I of course agree that violence, everybody agrees, of course, that violence against women is very, very bad. I think, though, one thing has to be said on this specific topic, and it is that the vast majority of violence against women is happening within the Arab Israeli society. The Jewish Israeli society is probably the safest in the whole world for women.
It's not exactly correct.
One of the safest.
First of all, you have some of the Ethiopian community in Israel, where you have a lot of murder situation.
Okay, that's true. So let's
say just every citizen in Israel should be protected.
That's true. But still, you have to understand that violence and certainly murders against women are a problem which are very, very localized in two groups, really. That's true what you said, is the Ethiopian community and the Arab community. And that's where we have to concentrate our efforts, and not for
and
populist...
I think also some of the Ethiopian representatives and some of the Arab representatives, they're saying it in their own words. They're saying, we have problem in our community. We need to get out of this violence, out of our houses, our communities, and our neighborhoods. And I really hope we're going to see a change.
A cultural change, because that's what's needed.
And we need to talk about it, to bring it up to the debate, and hope we're going to see this change anytime soon. Okay, this is it. Frenemies for today. Thank you very much for watching.
Thank you.